Hello, hobby friends, and welcome to another exciting episode of Hobby Talk. My name is David Baez, and in today's episode, I am delighted to introduce everyone to Scott Levy. Scott Levy is not only an avid and longtime vintage card and unopened collector, but Scott also has a distinguished career in the world of sports photography. I won't get too into the weeds on what all that means, as the Scott Levy interviews will be a series of multiple episodes talking about some of the many great moments in his career. For the first episode, though, we're going to get to know Scott as a collector. Hope you guys enjoy and talk to you soon. Thanks. Bye. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Hobby Talk. My name is David Baez, and today I have the pleasure of introducing to everyone Scott Levy. Scott Levy has a long history of collecting in the hobby, and we're gonna learn a lot more about him in today's episode and in some future episodes. So, Scott, welcome to Hobby Talk, buddy.
David, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I know there's a lot that we can talk about here, my friend. So I would love to start off learning about Scott Levy as a collector. So why don't we start by learning a little bit about your beginnings as a collector? So let's start with what you collected early on.
Absolutely. And I just want to say that I joined the site a few months ago, and it's been absolutely incredible. The people that I've met, I am so grateful to everyone. I joined the site through my friend Howard Atlas's Facebook page. I'm Scott Levy, but it may post as Howard Atlas. And I just wanted to give a shout out to some people who have really educated me for what I've been missing for the last 30 years. And I just want to say thanks to Greg, Mike, Tim, Kurt, Steve Hart, and David, especially.
My pleasure. My pleasure, buddy.
Well, so when I was 5.5 years old in the springtime, March of 1964, is the first time I remember getting baseball cards. And I stayed buying baseball cards from 1964 through 1972. I collected a lot of things growing up: coins, stamps, comic books, matchbox cars, but nothing was close to the incredible feeling it was to go and collect baseball cards. And when I would go to the local candy store, usually in March is when Topps released the cards, there'd be a little hand painted sign in the window: "We have baseball cards." And at the
That,
wax, hello.
that's
And
awesome.
a few weeks later, there'd be another sign in the door: "We have second series." And you wouldn't flip or trade with somebody who went to the candy store down the block if you had second series and they had first series.
Oh, really?
Issued in series, always exciting when the new series came out. And here is my checklist. First series, 1970.
How
Second,
cool is that?
so this is from, I was able to save from 70 to 72 my cards.
That's
Obviously,
great.
what mothers do with baseball cards. So 64 through 69, I don't have. But I was growing up in Brooklyn, and there were some other things that I collected. And I was told, well, like, this is a 69 Super. This is from when I was a kid. They said in Brooklyn there was a test issue, the greatest moments cards. And these are mine from when I was a kid.
Wow, those are great.
Yeah, the condition is not stellar because the black borders, and we carried baseball cards in our pockets back then,
Yeah.
to flip and trade.
Hey,
And
I just want to mention that on the checklist, I see you're missing a few cards. I'd be happy to help you with finding those.
great, I'll tell you, because I think you like this guy that I have here from
Oh,
the Super. Um,
love it.
and so I was hypnotized by all aspects of baseball cards, or variations that they had. And I used to drive the store owners crazy because I would go in, they'd have the cello box, and I'd start picking through packs, not looking for stars at the time, but people to look for my checklist. And they'd always end up saying, "Look, kid, just take the first one you see." But the other way that I got cards was when I did well in school, my parents would, if I got a good report card, would buy either a vending box or a wax box. And they put it in the kitchen cabinet. So in 1967, I had a full box of 24 wax packs, and every morning on my way to school, I would take some packs. Needless to say, I don't think about it too much, what that would be worth now, but back then it was $1.20 retail, and my father had access to a wholesaler, so he paid 60 cents for an unopened wax box of, 67 baseball cards.
That's amazing. If only we had those prices now.
And so I also got into basketball a little bit, just for like 1 year, and it was a good year.
Yeah.
Pretty center, but
Wow.
and we would flip and trade these. And Lou Alcindor was the same as anybody else, just because I wanted to fill out, my checklist. So from 5.5 to 14, I actually purchased cards, and nothing in my life rivaled that intense feeling of excitement, collecting cards, flipping them, trading them. And it was just a wonderful thing.
That's fantastic to hear. And honestly, some of the things that you mentioned kind of mirror some of the stories that my father shares with me in his youth about how he was collecting, trading, building sets with his friends. They would pool their money together and, their cards together rather, and trade doubles. And it wasn't even about the player. If they just had an extra mantle, they'd give up the mantle, right? Just to get, to finish up the set with some of the other cards they had. They would work together to complete the sets or the series. So
that's the way it was. You just want 132 or whatever, how many they had per series, and then you were on to the next one.
Yeah, that's great. Awesome. So tell me a little bit about your collection evolving, going past that era, if you will. Have you done any collecting post, let's call it childhood?
Absolutely. So in 1982, I was a third-year dental student, and I was finding out from the media or whatever that baseball cards were becoming popular again. They were having card shows. And I got back into it in 1982 until about 1988. And what was fascinating to me was that the cards now were in holders and they're gem mint and they were never touched. And it was, within the 10 years, it became a collectible, and you want the ideal condition. And so in New York, I go to a lot of card shows, and I was always hypnotized by unopened stuff from my era, because it would transport me back in time and reliving what it was like going into the candy store.
Yeah.
Now, as a third-year dental student, I didn't have much money. So I started out slow. And then there was the investment part to the hobby, speculating. I could decorate my wall with Darnell Coles, Jim Presley. He's okay. And so they were maybe a nickel each, but I really was fascinated by unopened. And I'm going to show you now what I was able to pick up. These are empty boxes. It's interesting. On the back of the 66 box, it says, "Our business is child's play." Well, it's sure child's play now.
Little did they know.
When I look at these boxes, David,
That's amazing.
and it shows the gum that they sold at the time, and
What year is that second box, Scott?
1967.
That's 67. Okay.
This is 69. One of my favorite years.
Oh, that's great.
It says 5th series on there. And on the back, it shows how the retailer would get prizes by how many top certificates he got by making purchases.
They get a free bicycle. That's,
So when I look at these boxes, for even a split second, it takes me back in time.
yeah.
So,
Those are great pieces, Scott. I mean, I've never seen that 67. That's a first for me.
and here is, I'll show you the box that the Cellos came in. It was in this kind of box, 10 cents a pack, and
Yeah.
I would rummage through it looking for the card that I needed.
That's great.
Once I started to have a little income, I could spend a little more. And also, I would go to the Woolworths and Toys R Us looking for rack packs of the current era, stars on top. And at times I got a little spoiled. I wanted a rack that had 2 players on top. So I'll show them now. This is from 1984. Carew and Schmidt, and a strawberry rookie on the back.
That's a great rack pack. Love it.
And so I would go to card shows. People were going to buy individual cards, fill out sets. I just was looking for unopened stuff.
That forward thinking, Scott. I said I love that forward thinking.
Ryan and Reigns.
That's great.
She and Jim Rice.
Ooh, love it.
And I really wanted to go back into my past to get some older stuff, but I couldn't afford it. At the time, a 1985 wax case I could have gotten for $300, I believe, in '86. I couldn't afford the $300, so I said to my friend, "How about we split it?" We opened the case. He took the top 10 boxes. I still have the bottom 10 boxes. I paid $150, but it ain't factory sealed anymore because,
Yeah.
Here is another rack of Eddie Murray and Winfield.
Very nice.
And I always sought out certain players that I liked. Carew and Carlton always came to my mind that I wanted. Here is Schmidt and Ryan, 86.
Yeah, very nice.
So actually getting out of the Toys R Us or the candy stores myself, searching through the packs,
looking for the star power.
for the star power. And then when I started to make a little money, and again, back in 1984 or 5, this rack was only a few years old, but it has Dawson and McCovey.
Great. That's a great rack pack.
I think for Dawson, even though I was a crazy diehard Yankee fan, I always loved Andre Dawson. And this one is special to me because of the Dawson rookie and Pete Rose on top.
Wow. That's a monster right there.
I posted that on the site at some point, and this may have come, probably came from a card show, and the guy either let me go through his box there or he pulled it out. But that was my goal at these card shows.
Yeah.
Was whatever I could afford.
Yeah.
And this took me a long time to get. It was one of the hardest, and this is 1968 rack.
Wow, nice.
And it's a batting lead card in the middle.
Yeah, what series is that one?
This one looks like a first series to me.
Okay.
So
that's a thing of beauty.
So this is what I was doing when I went to the card shows. It was really nice, and unfortunately, I avoided buying football and hockey and basketball, just would look for racks with star powers, like you said.
Yeah. Yeah, we have it's very interesting. Obviously, the different times, but we have a similar, um, focus. I mean, it's not like I didn't like or I don't like the other sports. I quickly started realizing, Scott, that I could only I could only do so many sports because there was such a heavy interest in me certain items I just loved, and I was like, I could only slice the pie so many ways. And because baseball is by far my favorite sport, I was like, all right, well, football's gonna have to take a back seat, and so is basketball. But so from a hobby perspective, I was just laser focused on the baseball piece, and it was more because of budget than anything else.
So you're saying if you had the funds, you would have bought the other sports too?
I think I would have branched out, yeah, because I mean, I always was fascinated by the cards. I saw some of my buddies, growing up were delving into hockey and football and basketball, and I would just kind of live vicariously through them, even the non-sports stuff, comic cards and stuff like that. I was just watching them, and we would still show off each other, like they knew I was the baseball guy, right? So I would just show them my baseball stuff, and and they had some baseball too. But when they were doing the other stuff, I was just an observer. I was just kind of focused from my budget on baseball. And I just kind of stayed that way because the prices just went up as my budget went up, so did the prices. So
Absolutely.
yeah. That's some great stuff you just showed there, by the way. I mean, that rack pack, that last one. Again, I know there's some out there, but there's not that many out there. That's a true gem.
You know, I guess, David, it's 52 years old now, the rack, I hardly see them as I look through the websites just to see, I guess I've seen a few in auction house. And that was one of my prime years of collecting.
Right.
Give me a second. I'm going to show you something that was also a prime year. Just give me 1 second.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now I know you have in your previous interviews, which have been wonderful, you'll say to the guys, what are some of your favorite packs? I still have a few to show you, but
yeah,
this was really cool. This is a 66 cello, and it has the transfer rub on, whatever they called it.
Yeah.
That is advertised, on the side of the box.
That's fantastic.
Now again, they weren't insanely, the price wasn't that crazy as it's much more valuable now.
Right.
Back to my budget. What can I afford? And that's really special to me because that was my meat and potatoes years.
Yeah.
64 to 72.
Yeah, that's another beauty there. The cellos are in particular the near and dear ones to me. That's I mean, I like them all. I like wax and racks, but cellos in particular are my favorite. Just love the way they present, especially in a PSA. Have you done PSA encapsulation on any of your cellos?
I've just gotten back into the hobby maybe 5-6 months ago.
Okay.
Still struggling with the whole dilemma of shipping out the country. I read these guys. I feel for them. They're waiting it to go to this level of PSA, and it's shipping, and I'll get it, and I'm tracking, and I'm like, okay, can I really? Do I have this process?
It's a really stressful process, Scott.
And if I have a question about something, as you know, there's guys on the site, and I put up some stuff, and I did get some, I guess, counterfeit packs, 75 packs that I purchased in the 80s. And Tim and Mike, in a very gracious way, will point out why they don't look legit to them. And so
they've been great for that to help out.
I thought they were real. And I know I do have to get it either authenticated by Steve, the racks and the boxes, and eventually do something with PSA to get it authenticated.
Yeah. I mean, I'm laughing because I completely agree with you, Scott. It's a very stressful process. Now, a year or two ago and beyond, you know, the process was like 3 months, you know, and you know, through no fault of their own with the hobby explosion, you know, now when any of us send an open out, we're looking at a 9 month I mean, I'm being nice, you know, I might be longer, but it could be about a 9 month process, where your cards are kind of bouncing around a little bit. They always get back, which is fantastic. I mean, I'm knock on wood, I'm batting 1,000, and so are my, you know, a lot of my friends. But I understand your concern, is my point.
Game here, and it seems like everybody's been doing it for years, and everybody's, you know, kind of suggested of how to do it. And eventually, I think I will. And I think the best suggestion I got is to do it in small increments. Send a few out, see how that.
Dip your toe in the water.
Exactly. Exactly.
Absolutely. Oh man, that's that. So great stuff. Let me ask you this, Scott. In terms of the your collection, what was the most difficult item for you to obtain, and why was it the most difficult?
Well, the 68 was a little difficult, but I had to think for Steve Carlton, and this is a 67 cello with Carlton on top.
Wow.
Um, Rick Rosnowski's on the back. Um, so again, I really tried after getting a common on a cello or rack from that generation. I wanted to try and get a star on it.
Yeah.
Those were really fine. You know, only some dealers had it, and they would pop up occasionally.
Right. That's that Carlton. That's the first I've ever seen a Carlton on front like that. That what a gem.
So that one was a little challenging, and I have another one that I'll show you shortly, which may be related to, you know, maybe something I would be the last thing to sell, but
You're prepared.
watch your interviews.
Well done.
At card shows in the 80s was just to look for anything unopened from the 60s. And my goal was to get a pack, either rack or cello, from 65 going forward. I still have a couple of holes, but I pretty much achieved getting either a rack or cello from 65. I'm sorry, I have a 64 pack with the red wrapper and the coins in there.
Right.
I wanted to do a kind of a complete run, and I have a couple of holes still.
Well, yeah, that's you kind of I'm going to ask it anyway just to make sure, but my next question to you was, what's the one item that you would love to add to your collection in terms of, like, you know, let's rank the number one item on your list and why?
So my three favorite designs from the 60s is 65, 67, and 69. I would love to have either a rack or cello from 1969. And that was the year, for some reason, the way that they designed the card, I just love the players, you know, with the circle and
Yeah.
anything from 1969. And that's my dream pack I'm looking for.
All right. Well, we'll put the APB out there. We're gonna help you find one.
Feeling that some of the guys on the site either have some or know where to get some.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you there, my friend. Oh man. So let me ask you this. You know, we've talked a little bit about your collection and the evolution going into kind of, let's call it, the next generation of hobby collecting for you. But I imagine, again, you know, and I know you just kind of got back into it 5 or 6 months ago, but you have to between Facebook and just talking to other hobbyists, have seen what's going on in 2020, this hobby explosion. So I always love to ask my guests, what's your take on everything going on in 2020, and where do you see the hobby in the next few years?
Well, I'm old enough to be able to tell you that junk has now become really valuable. And I'll use one little reference here. I bought in 1987 a wax case for 170. I bought 10 of them. My accountant said, sell enough at some point if the value goes up to generate your initial investment and hold the rest. And then after that, whatever you sell it for, it's gravy. And I did okay. Maybe I got 400 a case a couple of years later.
Right.
And so everything just slid downwards. Such that when I entered back into the hobby, say of April of this year, 87 wax was still $8 a box, maybe $10 a box.
That's right.
Afternoon, there are guys on the site or eBay who are asking $50.
Yeah.
So in 33 years, I've seen something that was great initially turn to junk, and now it's become pretty decent.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing, isn't it?
It's fascinating to me. My overall view is, because ripping didn't exist back then, with the concept of ripping, the influx of new people into the hobby, let's say during the pandemic, that the interest has caused the price to go up, along with, in theory, there's less number of cases of 87 if they're being ripped open. Now, I don't think they're ever going to go much more. 86 is still like this. We know 83 and 85 have taken off.
Yeah, they sure have.
So I think vintage stuff will always be really good and never go below, let's say, its lowest point, but there may be some slight kickback. Maybe next year an 87 wax box, for example, could be $40 where it peaked this year at, say, 55.
Yeah.
But it's back to $8 a box.
Yeah, I think I think you totally hit the nail on the head, Scott. I mean, I don't know how many times I've had this conversation with fellow hobbyists, and my take on it is exactly that. I think there will be, quote unquote, a market correction at some point, but I think in the world of vintage and unopened, and when I say vintage and unopened, let's call it early '80s before and prior. I think you won't see that dip. I think for 85 and let's call it 86 and forward, you'll see a little bit of a correction, but it won't be, to your point, a price that I was buying, let's say $87 for, ripping with my son, just a couple months, let's call it close to a year ago now, where I was buying boxes for $10. I mean, that box is $90 now.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a $10 box just went to 90, but will it go down maybe to 70 in a couple months? I could see that, but it will never, in my opinion, get back to $10. I think if I'm ever going to rip that again, I'm going to have to pony up.
Absolutely. And look what happened to 83 wax. I mean, that's insane.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy because I remember ripping 83 Donruss with my son as well 2 years ago. And that was the price, because every now and then we would treat each other to like a pricey, rip. And he's really into vintage, and he knows his Hall of Famers, and he's really, big into baseball. And he's like, yeah, let's go for that Gwynn and that and the Boggs. And I'm like, yeah, let's do it. I mean, the box, I think, I'm going to say it cost me like $175 or $100 for the box. And we would just do a couple packs a night until we finished the box. I wouldn't touch that box now.
Find something else.
Well, we've moved on to 88.
And you could go into an 86 tops wax box.
Yeah, we moved to 88 actually. Oh, that's funny stuff. So that's great insight. I appreciate that. Scott, if I want to ask you a final fun question that I asked the group, I think you're kind of ready for it already, so I'm going to fire away. So if you had to give up one item in your amazing collection that you have there, and let's stick to the world of cards, because I know you have other precious items we're going to talk about in the future, but let's talk in the world of cards. If you had to give up one item, I'm sorry, your entire collection except for one item, what would it be and why?
So, as you know, cello packs for many years came in this fashion,
Right.
right? And then there's a few year period where they increased the size of the cello pack and had them inserted into their own little box.
Yes.
And this is in 1971, 30 cards, one stick of gum.
Oh man. Have you
And
shown Kurt that one?
I don't want to say anything, but Kurt, I know maybe you're watching. So
Wow.
who on top, and then there's Dave Moorhead on the back. But this is something really special to me because when I see this, not only does it transport me back into time of purchasing this in 1971, as a child, but I love Rod Carew. I always respected his game.
Yeah. Great
This
player.
long time when I was back in from 82 to 87 to track something like this down. So this would probably be the last thing that I would sell.
That's a beautiful, beautiful cello. And I could totally see why. That is great. Wow. So Scott, thank you so much for sharing your, part of your collection with us today. I think again, it's amazing, and I always love to learn more about my guests from a collecting side of things. And I can't wait to talk to you more about another amazing part of your life as a hobbyist and as a baseball enthusiast that we'll get into in the future. But yes, as a collector, I'm so grateful for you to share your experiences and your cards with us, and I'm looking forward to talking to you again.
It was absolutely my pleasure. I can't wait to continue to talk to you. I'm grateful to be on the site with such amazing guys, and I just love sharing, and I love seeing what other people have. So I really look forward to when we chat again.
Great. Thanks. We'll talk soon, buddy.
Great day.
Hey guys, thanks for watching today's video. Please click on the like and subscribe button. Just a couple quick updates. We are officially live on iTunes, Google, as well as Spotify for our podcast. Go to HobbyNetworkGroup.com for more details and links. Thanks for watching today's video and have a great day. Bye.